since the first fight. You know, I always want to get the first round finish, and I've been lucky enough. Like I say lucky because like, you know, luck counts like in this sport. I fought guys that I was better and ended up losing the fights. I've like, you know, ended up beating guys that I was supposed to lose. So it's one of those things like, you know, you have to be lucky somehow. And I was lucky enough to win this fight faster than I won the first one, and that secured my, you know, my #1 spot. But you know, like I was saying the other day, you know, the main thing is always to be like be in the top 8, so I could make it to the playoffs, and I made it as #1. So that could be like, you know, that could have favored me. That could make somehow like intimidated, like for me to fight other guys. They're gonna be like, well, especially when the guy finished the fight, first one submission, which is like 100% his game. Everybody knows that. And now the second one, he finished with striking. So, you know, why can't I take this guy? So I feel like, you know, I'm gonna be walking to the playoff like as maybe as a favorite to maybe to win the whole thing. I think I'm gonna win the whole thing, but you know.
Did you see his first fight? I mean, obviously he took quite a bit of damage in that fight, almost was finished in it. So did you watch that, do anything in particular in preparation for this?
I haven't trained for anybody specifically, you know. It is a tournament, there's a bracket, you know, there's all these guys, and of course I try to like see which each guy does like differently. And but I'm training like in all areas of my game. I'm trying to improve my jiu-jitsu game, I'm trying to improve my wrestling, I'm trying to improve my striking. And the more I train, the more confident I feel like in every single area. So for me, it's not about like who I'm fighting, it's just like about like when I'm fighting. You know, if I'm gonna be ready, if I dedicate myself and train the way I should have. And I'm feeling 100% every time that I'm walking to that cage.
Oh, when you brought him to the ground after hitting him numerous times, you didn't jump right to the submission. Did you just want to continue pounding on him? Did you feel him crumbling?
Here's the thing, like, of course, like, no, I thought about going for a submission, but as I was striking, like, I felt like his body was going limp, so I was like, well, I might as well just keep going with this, especially, like, you know, going for a submission can be risky. He's not a great grappler as far as, like, you know, have a great jiu-jitsu game, but it's one of those things, like, you know, people get slippery, you might end up, like, try to go for a submission, end up on your back, and as you can see, like, you know, I had a situation where I was on my back, it was a decent spot, but I couldn't get the finish. So I didn't want to take the risk. So I felt like he was going limp with every punch that I was throwing, so I just kept throwing him.
Moving forward, is the 2 fights in one night, does that excite you as far as getting in there?
Well, I've done like many matches, not fights, but like, you know, in one weekend. So for me, it's just like, it is just like a tournament. This is a sport, you know, so even though there's punches and kicks, I'm used to the whole experience of like having to go against 2 different opponents or more, you know, in the same night. And as long as I can keep doing what I'm doing now, like get fights and win like them like within a minute and 30 seconds, I should be able to do that like just, you know, as fine as I did this first one. So as long as I can get the next fight in a minute and 30 seconds, I don't care if the second one's going to be like a full 3 rounds. So.
Now, I know you said you're training for the tournament, not for a particular opponent, but as far as who you're going to see in the playoffs, is there anyone you think you're going to be matched up with, anyone you think poses a real threat to you?
I've said that before too. The only guy that I feel like is always the toughest guy is Ronnie Marcus, because we are teammates. So fighting a teammate sometimes not about his skill level. It's just like, you know, you don't want to be fighting a friend. You don't want to be taking the money like from his table and the food from his table, and that's what's gonna end up happening. You know, if I fight him, I'm gonna have to beat him. It's just like how it is. I'm doing this for me. I'm doing this for my family. So unfortunately, you know, whoever I fight, I'm gonna go there to beat him. And Ronnie's the toughest guy, but he's not even in yet. So who knows? Everybody else, you know, like I just see myself beating everybody right now.
Did you guys work out like cornering and everything ahead of the tournament as far as him and yourself?
We train together. We are sport, like, you know, we train with each other, spar with each other, we grapple with each other. It's just one of those things, you know. Maybe if you have to end up like fighting each other, if you get like matched up the next fight, am I gonna have to like train like separate times, maybe separate gyms? But I don't know. But as for right now, you'd be helping each other a lot.
You're the top seed, you have the most points, you're very experienced, and you're a finisher. You're probably going to be the favorite going into the playoffs. Do you feel like you have a target on your back? And if so, do you embrace that?
There's no target on my back. I'm still the guy that's the only jiu-jitsu guy, you know. That was just like a lucky shot, so I just keep it that way. If people believe there's a lucky shot, I'm going to keep trying those lucky shots. If they happen, they happen. If they don't happen, let him take me down, or I'll go for the takedown. I'm going to try to finish on the ground. But I don't see this whole, like I said, like, you know, once you make the top 8, now there's no favorites anymore. Of course, you go like through those 2 fights. Now we know who are going to be the favorites, like when it comes down to the finalists. Which I believe, you know, if I go past those 2 fights, I'm going to win the whole thing. It's like, no, like it's 10 weeks to be trained for the final fight. So there's nobody that's going to beat me. If I have 10 weeks to be like prepare myself for one person, which I haven't done. Like I said, I'm training for a tournament right now. There's no faces for me. When I'm like getting ready for a fight, it's me bringing my best game. Now, let's say I make it to the final. Now it's me bringing like my best game to this specific guy. So I'm going to be studying his game, and it's going to be really hard to beat me.
So you've obviously competed multiple times in one night. Is this the first time you're going to be fighting in one night?
It is the first time fighting one night, but when I was an Ultimate Fighter, I was fighting every 2 weeks too, and ended up making it in the final. And at that time, I wasn't even hitting pads. I wasn't doing any striking. I was just doing nothing but jiu-jitsu. Some people didn't even know that. I was like 2 years, maybe a year and a half into MMA, and I got an Ultimate Fighter just knowing jiu-jitsu. So my whole game plan was like, well, I'm going to pull guard. I'm better than these guys in jiu-jitsu, and I'm going to submit them. And nowadays, of course, I try not to pull guard as much, but if it happens, it happens. And I still feel like I have like huge advantage like in the area. So
Great, thank you.
Now, with fighting twice in one night, will you vary your styles between matches, or pull back a little bit, or just try to conserve energy, or what's your plan on that?
Well, I think the whole conservative energy, it's not smart to be trying to like, oh, let's just slow things down. Then you're gonna end up like having a 3-round fight. Ideally, it's to do what I did like in my first fight and do what I did tonight. I go there, try to get the finish as quick as possible, not get any bruises, not getting tired, like no injuries at all. Then you walk away fresh for the next one. You can get back in the gym and train again. So in that situation, it's even better. If let's say I get another fight and the next fight's a minute 30 seconds, I have like more than 30 minutes fresh to rest for the next fight. Let's say my opponent has a 3-round fight. I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna have a huge advantage on that. So my goal is always to get in there and try to get a finish as quick as possible.
Now, have you and your teammate, talked about if we face each other?
We have talked about that. Ideally, you can't decide those things anymore, right? Especially the way he ended up losing his first fight. Before this whole tournament started, we were planning, let's both of us try to get like first round finishes. You're gonna be number 1, number 2. You're gonna go opposite side of the bracket, so you just made it in the final. And unfortunately, it didn't happen that way for him. So you're just gonna have to hope that he gets in one of those spots that we just faced out in the final. But if it happens like sooner than that, there's nothing you can do, and you're gonna have to fight.
Do you think maybe fighting somebody that you train with, somebody that you're friends with, might be more of a motivator to put on a fantastic, not that anybody would want to go out and put on a bad fight, but go out there and show what your skills are and that you guys, have learned a lot.
I feel like psychologically there's nothing good about fighting a teammate. This is not jiu-jitsu. I've competed against teammates in jiu-jitsu. It's different, You punch somebody in the face, you can do like real damage like to somebody that you know. But at the same time, there's like $1 million in the line, so I don't care who's in front of me. I could be my cousin, my brother. I'm gonna try to keep him in the head or punch him in the face. All those things I did tonight.
Vinny, you told us that you had kind of visualized your finish at your last fight, and that you give that prediction to your wife. Did this fight go the way that you had visualized?
Yes, the head kick. Yes, my trainer's there. We actually always, that's the one thing. I'm not a striker, but like there's one thing that I always throw are the head kicks. This time, the first fight, I called the fight. Is that how he went? I was like, I'm gonna do this, this, and that, and he happened the way I called. For this one, it was actually my son. He was the one who said, hey, tell my dad to kick the guy in the head. And it just happened. So it's like I'm being lucky. So next time I'm gonna ask my daughter for predictions, so that way, for the next 2 fights, actually, she's gonna have to be the one picking the next 2 fights. So that way, if she calls it, it's gonna happen.
I saw you guys going over those head kicks right before you went out. How good did it feel when you were able to actually land it?
It's funny, even though that's one of the things that I do a lot, if you watch my previous fights, I always throw the kicks. I don't care, because if they catch my leg, they take me down, I still feel comfortable on the ground, if they feel on my back. But I was not feeling it during the fight as far as throwing like one strike at a time, and with the kicks, I was just feeling slow. But once I was able to throw 2 or 3 combos with my hands and then throw the kick, that's when I felt like I found the distance, and that's exactly how things worked out in my favor. So it was good, but it's something that you practice all the time for sure.